So I'm very happy for my phone to be made privately. But I do not think the racial wealth gap or the legacy of slavery and segregation and mass incarceration in America can be remedied by rich people throwing coins at black people. I just don't think that's true. Any more than I think Sheryl Sandberg's lean-in circles can deal with patriarchy. I think when you're talking about those, and I'm specifically talking about those types of problems that are the reason we have government, right? Like, the whole point of government, most things in life are solvable down here. Most things. It's a very small fraction of things that are not solvable on our own. And that's why we have government. And we have lived under an ideology for 30, 40 years, emanating out of the United States, but spread many places, that has told us government is bad. Government is bad. Government is the enemy. Government is slow. Government is inefficient. Government doesn't know how to regulate. Government is just giving your money to undeserving people. And I think many of us who are not really intellectually sympathetic to that idea in its core form have nonetheless inhaled the secondhand smoke of that idea. So that Ronald Reagan says, government is the problem. Bill Clinton says, the era of big government is over. That's the left version of the same idea. So my solution is a return to politics. And what that means practically is everybody in this room has some issue in your society, or some 3 issues or 10 issues that you care about, things that piss you off about your community. I hope you do. And if you do, what I am suggesting very simply is next time you think about doing something about it, do not go into this door that we've been told to go into for the last 30, 40 years, which is the door of market, win-win, doing well by doing good solutions. Do not solve that problem by selling cupcakes that give back. Do not solve that problem by getting persuading BlackRock to start an impact investment fund. Do not solve that problem by reading Ray Dalio's book. Do not solve that problem by having a shoe sent to some poor country for every shoe that you wear. I've been to many developing countries. I've never seen those other pairs of shoes, by the way. If we have any investigative reporters here, see me afterwards. And in the other door is organizing, is fighting for laws and policies that will actually solve these problems at the root for everybody. And if in a space like this, your role is not just that of a citizen, organize, get involved, that's kind of obvious. It may be that you are part of institutions right now that are actively complicit in that not being a viable way for us to solve problems. You might be part of organizations that are lobbying against the government doing, the government doesn't not solve stuff because it loves to not solve stuff. Like, I know through my job a lot of senators and congresspeople. Do you know that how boxed in they are by these lobbyists who threaten them all day long with campaign contributions and getting kicked out of office if they don't stick in the amendment that's going to help Facebook? So, first of all, it may be worth, if you're in one of these institutions, unwinding your complicity. Right?
I have a feeling a lot of letters of resignation will be written tonight after this conversation.
And it may be in some cases, I think Facebook's a good example, where there's just no hope in a particular organization, and resigning is the moral thing to do. But I do think most organizations would benefit from people who are willing to think differently. I'll give you one example of something that's very moving to me. I said something about, at an event for business and social responsibility types of folks, and maybe many people in the room who do that kind of thing. I said, all of you, it was like the clean water person at Coca-Cola was right before me, so maybe that was a similar setup to today. And people who did the good thing within each of their companies, right? And I said to this group, I don't doubt that what each of you do in this room is actually probably good for the world, net. I don't doubt that maybe the clean water person is like dumping sludge, but I think probably what she does is net good. I was like, the problem is, you have a colleague who you may know or you may not know, who probably has a nicer suit than you, lives in Washington, D.C. or London or whatever, who is slipping things into federal budgets, putting things into trade agreements, that is hurting way more people on a much bigger scale than your lovely initiative's going to do, right? And this guy comes up to me afterwards and he said, that really changed my life. And I said, where do you work? He works at a big pharmaceutical company, one of the biggest in the world. He probably doesn't agree with 90% of what I say, but he connected with that. And so he said, here's what I did. This is a senior guy. He was the head of the good stuff, sustainability, or that, like big top 3 or 4, probably at this company. And he said, it never occurred to me that I'm being undermined by my own colleagues. And you're right, like anything slipped in the federal budget of the United States or a trade agreement or a WTO accord on drugs, obviously is operating on a much bigger scale than anything the sustainability arm of my company is doing. He said, so I actually went down to Washington. And he's like, I'm a senior guy, so I could ask to go meet these people. And I met them. And he's like, you were right. They were doing all kinds of stuff that were completely undermining everything I work for every day. And I don't like that. And I've started to have conversations with them about harmonizing that. So you may hear me as someone who's talking about, as I am, democratic solutions being the only fundamental solutions to that. And that's what I believe. But if you are in organizations like that, think about that guy. That is a thing you can do. There's versions of that you can do on taxation. Why do we pay no taxes? It's interesting, boss. We pay no taxes. That's kind of weird, right? Have that conversation.